I pick one. We can just play 3 headlines and a lie.
And that's who could have thought
Who
that?
would have? Who could have predicted this?
Who would have seen that coming, and why didn't anyone warn them?
Tick off, tee off. This is it.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada yada yada. Hello, Wisconsin. Hello, Wisconsin. Happy Wednesday. Happy March. It is March 1st. We're in a new month. Hopefully that means spring is right around the corner. But here we are, halfway through the week. Dream on air. How did it go without me yesterday?
Hey, we missed you, but Carol Kane was here, and we didn't break anything for the last 2 hours, so that was good. And thank you. And I would just like to confirm that it is almost officially spring because I saw a chipmunk run across the road this morning.
Oh, I saw a fruit fly. Does that count?
What?
That just means you're gross.
Okay. And so that other voice you just heard is, of course, Mr. Greg Bach, because it is Greg Bach Hump Day Wednesday. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm also doing well.
Excellent.
Happy to be here. Happy to have you here.
Oh my gosh.
I'm also happy that it's Women's History Month.
Yeah. Now all the billboards just change at
Just
midnight.
changing over
Right
from,
at midnight.
from Black History Month to Women's History Month. There's some overlap. We can still celebrate Black women. And
Without a doubt.
Are we allowed to? I don't know. Do billboards say we can? I have no idea.
But I thought this was interesting. So there's always a theme to every year. I don't know who gets to decide the theme, but there's a theme every year for the Women's History Month. And this month's theme is celebrating women who tell our stories. What does that mean? It means the recognition of women, past and present, who have been active in all forms of media and storytelling, including print, radio, TV, stage, screen, blogs, podcasts, news, and social media. So, Greg, I think that means you have to celebrate Jane and I.
Yeah.
I understand there's a gift per day.
I know that is. I think that is
Provided
part of the stipulation.
Provided by one's closest partner.
Exactly.
Right.
Mike and Paul.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to try to do. I reached out to Wisconsin Historical Society this morning and said, "Hey, you got anyone who wants to come on and talk about different Wisconsin women's stories?" I've done some in the past.
Probably.
There's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. But as far as getting someone who's a little bit more of an expert than me, just reading off their website, would be good.
Yeah.
Do you have a Shiro?
Yeah, I've got a lot of them.
Yeah?
Honestly. Yeah, from like the non-famous to the very famous. Yeah,
All
I've got a
right.
lot of them.
Do you want to name them?
No, I'm just
I'm going to keep it a secret.
No, I would say someone who's a big hero of mine is my grandmother. Even though, I would love to say that I could tell you these stories about me, but going to my grandmother's house and she'd making cookies and it smelled like fun. No, it wasn't like that. But she was a truly amazing woman. Like in a day and age where people said like you stay with your husband and you live life. And that's it. This is your job. She didn't. She divorced his ass.
Oh.
And wore pants at a time when they said don't wear pants, own property, own businesses. Like she was, she did her thing. That was Grandma Ruth.
All right, Grandma Ruth.
Grandma Ruth didn't take guff. She didn't take guff from no one.
Is this your mom's dad or your mom's mom or your
My
dad's
mom's
mom?
mom. Yeah, my mom. She was pretty cool. And as far as like a famous lady, I still always go with Stacey Abrams. I just want to hang out with her and just high five. Like, can I do something to help you? You seem like you do a lot. Can I get you a hot beverage?
All right. Well, we will be celebrating that all month, but today we have a great show. In the bottom of the hour, we're going to give some updates on some Wisconsin budget news. Nothing concrete, obviously, because this is an ongoing negotiating situation. But then also we have some fun topics. Well, no, I take that back. Child labor, definitely not a fun topic, but I think the angle we're taking it because we had talked about Wisconsin company that mid last month, it was reported that they had over 100 children working in their sanitation plants. But New York Times published an article this past week that within 2 days after it was published, and it was about migrant children and the rampant child labor laws that are being broken, the Biden administration went into action. And so I feel like just talking about the power of journalism and how it really does spark change when done well.
Yes.
It's kind of the moral of that story. So that part's funner.
The uplifting part. That's uplifting.
The uplifting, it's the silver lining to an otherwise pretty dark story.
Child labor is not going to the No Sour Fun Time Power Hour.
No,
Okay.
certainly not going to the third hour of the show. And then we have for 12:30. Is it ethical to have 2 full-time jobs if you can? If you can swing it and you get your work done, is it ethical? Because if you're not telling either job that you have another full-time job, and obviously this has to be remote, they're both remote. But there's a lot of trends going on in the workplace. We're going to talk about that. But to kick off today, yesterday, SCOTUS heard some student loans oral arguments.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the 40 million people who is eligible and likely celebrated last summer when you thought that the last of your student loans, not all of it, but like 50% thought the last of your student loans were going to be forgiven, don't hold your breath yet, because the conservative courts sounded a little skeptical of the arguments made yesterday in the Supreme Court about Biden's student debt relief program. And so, just as a reminder, kind of what the case is, there's two different claims. One case is from 6 Republican-led states who argue President Biden doesn't have the authority to cancel student loans, and the other is from 2 people who didn't fully qualify for the relief program. And just a reminder that the debt relief plan would wipe up to $20,000 of debt for more than 40 million people. And there's some stipulations as far as how much money you make as a single person or as a married couple, and if you took a Pell Grant. But as someone who still has student loans,
Are you pointing to me or to yourself?
I paid mine off.
Oh,
And so I am not, but I am one of the people who paid it off, but doesn't feel like, well, I paid mine off.
Same here.
And so you would have benefited from this.
I would benefit. Now, I'm happy to say this. I have $3,100 left in school loans. I'm almost there. So if I get it, it'll be great. It won't provide me a great deal of relief. It just will, like, that's one less thing I have to worry about. But I'm definitely, even if I paid it off, I'd still be saying yes, help out, do something.
So it's interesting because it sounds like the only chance of this standing is if the 2 parties have like cause, right? Is that what you understood? Like, how much of the hearings did you read yesterday as far as what happened?
Well, the little I was able to savor because I was working yesterday, but is that the justices, as it said, everyone's been using the term skeptical, and to me that just spells this is not going to happen. That they're going to basically look at does the president have the ability to unilaterally do this action without Congress?
Yeah,
which they've been talking about for years, saying the president has the power to forgive up to a certain amount. Okay, so fine. Now that he did it, now that we're in the court, you're saying now we can do it. Why didn't Congress do something beforehand, limiting that power then if it did exist in the first place? We waited for someone to do it, and he did it, and now we're here. And now every time I look at my school loan website, it always says, still in the courts. I know it's still in the courts. I'm aware.
We have Charles on the phone checking in from Green Bay. Charles, what did you want to say about this?
Okay, you got millions, if not billions, of PPP loans that went to people who didn't need them.
Yep.
And they were forgiven.
Yep.
Then you've got people who are struggling with student loans, and I'm not one of them. My student loans, I never had any, thank goodness, for my aunt and my grandmother, who bought U.S. savings bonds to pay for my college. But the point is, if they're struggling, and I could see giving some, relief to the people who are struggling. But they have to prove that they're struggling.
So you feel like the
Uh,
threshold, the 100, was it 100,000 and 250,000, or what were the two thresholds as far as how much people could make to
I'm,
get there?
There's 100.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I knew it was 150,000
For singles.
for singles. Yeah,
So that means, and depending on where you live, that can be 150,000 in Wisconsin is a lot of money.
it's a lot of money. Yeah,
In New
Correct.
York City, not so much. So you're saying that you think people should have to prove more need than just automatically qualify?
Yes, I think that would be a way to do it. Let's see. Matt Gates got $474,000 in PPP loans.
What's his company that he
I
applied
have
for
no
with that?
idea.
I know it's the same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was construction company.
That's her father's
That's her
company.
father's company.
yeah, it's a jazz company.
That's her father's company.
Yeah.
And Jared Kushner got $800 and some thousand.
Because he really
As if
needs
he
it.
needs the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he needs it. You're right.
All right. Thanks so much for the call, Charles. If you have feelings or reactions to the hearings yesterday, or I guess just about student loans in general, because this is still a very controversial issue. There was a poll that came out that said 50% of midterm voters supported debt relief, student debt relief, whereas 47 opposed it. I'm like, that's pretty even, especially compared to some of the other public opinion polling on big issues
Right.
Yeah,
that we see. That's like it's really strong in one way or the other. This is pretty evenly split as far as how people feel about it. And I always come back to it's one thing to have this one-time relief. It's another thing to actually fix the problem. And I feel like I still haven't heard any compelling theories as to how to fix the problem of why school has gotten so expensive.
well, I mean, it's why is it so expensive is one question. How to fix it is the
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll keep talking about it after the break because I don't know if we're going to fix it, but we will
We are
keep talking
today.
about it. This is As Goes Wisconsin. We'd love to hear from you. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96.
Marty.
We'll be right back.
Quite mild, why would you suggest it? And if they never forgive you, I'm probably gonna outlive you and start hanging with your future child. You really sound like a creep now. Don't you know I'll always be your dad? Gee, I'll go thank the dean. Hey, you're the one who signed your life away. Yeah, when I was 17, I couldn't comprehend my fate, much less define an interest rate. I wish it was a for debate, but now it's far too late.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Charlie Barons, inviting you to join me Saturdays and or Sundays at noon. It's a horse apiece, whatever you decide. We're doing the Cripes Cast, where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest, and it's more fun than a six-pack of Jolly Good. Okay, the pride of Random Lake, that Jolly Good is. Anyway, it's on your Civic Media station and the Civic Media app. And do me a favor, tell your folks I says hi. Okay, real good.
Monday morning at 8, don't miss Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring legendary Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Football, life, and fun.
Earl, you've been driving a Yugo. They just gave you a brand new Ferrari with turbo boost. So enjoy it, brother.
Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Monday morning at 8 on the Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK.
Veterans, whatever you're going through, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach. Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Weather on this
We got Jane Matnair and Greg Bach is here. Greg, I'm trying to figure out, someone on the text line said that there's reverb, and so we're trying to figure out which extra mic or sound is on.
Should be muted.
My computer is muted.
I don't know. That is
Weird.
That is weird.
I muted mine on this end. We'll see if that makes a
All
difference.
right, let's see. All right. Well, welcome back. We are talking about the SCOTUS hearing, the student loan oral arguments yesterday, and their skepticism. The things that I heard is Justice Roberts, I guess he mentioned the cost, because it's almost $500 billion. It's like, it's a lot of money, $500 billion over 30 years. And I think that is his point as far as, can they do this without Congress and spend this much money? But then there's also the thing that didn't make sense to me was I think it was Gorsuch and Alito bringing up fairness. And when has the law ever been concerned with fairness?
I mean, in its basis, yes, and its execution, no.
Yeah, that's what I mean. As far as when it's actually coming in to interpret the law, isn't it, this is what the law says and not necessarily, well, is it fair or not? Like, because that goes about like changing the law.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what are they saying? It's what isn't fair? Is it fair? Is it because the thing I keep on hearing, it's not fair to the people who don't have student loans. It's not fair to the people who didn't go to college. It's not fair. Yeah, but we pay for a lot of things that if you're looking at it from that angle, there's a lot of things that aren't fair with how we spend money in this country on certain things, whether we want to talk about war, whether we want to talk about infrastructure, whether we want to talk about education. So, why should I pay taxes in a school district where I don't have a child? I still pay taxes. If money gets spent, so it's going to get spent. Do it. I don't know. That's my thought.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like, I feel like what is a better, is it the solution of, is there anything in here that would make not everyone, but majority of people happy?
No, I don't think so. I think they scream it's not fair. They scream all these things, but they don't come with a solution. There is no solution. Their solution is don't do it. Let them pay. They went to school. They knew what they were doing when they got into it. But unfortunately, as we've seen story after story, people getting loans 10, 20, 30 years ago are still paying because the interest rates, the amount, they're not getting the jobs they thought they were going to get coming out of college. I mean, I'm going to use the word unfair. Now people are going to be like, well, it's not fair. It's not fair. But yeah, sometimes it just isn't fair.
But is it fair that if you file for bankruptcy, if you had a business loan, that would be forgiven and it would be wiped off your record, but your student loans aren't? Is that fair? That no matter what, you are on the hook for that when you signed up for it at 18?
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. I wasn't.
And it's
18.
also like, it's a lot easier to get a student loan than it is to get a business loan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just, I mean, it's almost like getting a credit card nowadays. All you have to do is fill out some paperwork and that's it. I mean, yeah, I one of the things I always thought is that, excuse me, when you get a student loan, if it's a true loan, not a grant, but a loan, there should be some counseling in there too on how to, even though FAFSA, in order to graduate, when I graduated, I had to go through a class on paying my student, for those who can't see us, I'm doing air quotes. You had to do a class on paying off your loans or paying on your loans, but they really don't tell you about, like, take as much as you need. Don't take all of it. Go for grants. Look for grant money. There's lots of grant money. There's lots of scholarship money out there, but we don't, because we just say, you're 18, you're an adult, boom, there you go. Go to college, make something
Go to
better.
the best college you can.
Yep. And after that, we don't have to worry about you at all. And the moment you sign on that paper and take that money, it's your problem, not ours. I mean, that's
Texter from the 608 says corporate America caused the problem by requiring a bachelor's degree or higher for jobs that do not exist. They should have the solution to fix the problem. They won't because of money. My student loans have accrued $30,000 in interest at 7%. And since I couldn't get a company to hire me, the loans were $35,000, now over to $75,000. I am almost 50 years old. I will never be able to pay on those loans or even pay them off before my time on this earth is over.
See, and those are the kind of stories where I feel like the average person well, this isn't fair, and like they don't actually understand. They think of some Ivy League or like liberal arts college who, you know, is in some cushy job or
Mhm.
something like that. Like I think it's such a divide between the stereotype or the picture you've painted in your head of the other
Yeah.
versus the actual burden that people have taken on and how much it's limiting and impacting our economy. Because when you hear that story, like that's unbelievable.
But I don't think it's unusual.
No, it's not. I saw a story about a guy who got a student loan in the 70s, and he's still paying on interest. I mean, that thing is, and those people who say things like,
Well,
too,
go ahead.
I was saying, it's people who say things like, too bad. That's, you did what you did. These are the same people who, like, believe in the American dream, the most whitewashed, basic version of the American dream, which is you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you make something of yourself. That's what these people did. They're like, I'm going to go to college. I want to better my life. I want a degree. I want to get a better job so I can provide. That's what they did. They weren't shirking the system. They didn't have a famous or rich dad or mom. They were just doing what we told them to do. And that dream is going to college, quote unquote, which I no longer subscribe to, even though I have a college degree.
All right. Well, again, I don't think we fixed it, but it's super interesting. I mean, don't hold your breath for a little while because it sounds like this won't be decided. I mean, this could be until next summer, unless is there any reason why a decision with this would come before next summer, or I guess this summer, I should say.
I was gonna say, I was like, whoa,
This summer.
no, yeah, I think we're gonna see it summer. It'll be summertime, and even on top of that, I don't think it's gonna be. I'm not looking. I'm not holding my breath.
You're getting ready to pay your loans back.
Oh, absolutely. They'll pay it off by the time the decision comes down.
All right. This is As Goes Wisconsin. When we come back, a biennial budget watch. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Asco's Wisconsin on this Wednesday, March 1st. We can smell spring, right? With it's that awkward period of the year when there's both mud and dead grass
And,
and
like,
snow and ice.
dirty snow.
Yes. When it's just the best time. It's the best time of year to come to Wisconsin, in my opinion. So we are always open to having your phone calls and your text messages. 844-967-2789. That is 844-96.
Party.
You can also leave a comment on the live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and we will read it. We will consider your thoughts. Maybe we will refute your thoughts. You never know, but we would love to hear from you.
In my time of being here since September, we've never gotten like, I mean, I'm not on the this show every day, but in the time I've been here on Wednesdays, we've never had like someone calling me like, you guys are full of BS, and I think the malarkey coming out of your mouth are crazy pants. I don't like it.
Yeah, we're pretty good. We're pretty good as far as we've yet to have anyone really, and I feel like Jane would cut them off pretty quickly if anything were to happen, as far as someone who's like, well, we don't, that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Please stop yelling at us. But yes, we always would love to hear from you. And so we march on with our topic for this segment. I feel like every day there's more information coming out as far as what was actually in the 10,000 page budget beyond what was addressed in Governor Evers' budget address. And also now more sound bites and reports on whether or not what the Republicans are going to include, what's DOA, et cetera, et cetera. So in this segment, we just thought we'd go through some of the headlines that I saw yesterday as far as things that may or may not end up in the final budget. The first one being, it sounds like, I thought they were going to put up more of a fight, but it sounds like the GOP has decided that they are not going to die on the flat tax hill. And so
Dang.
I know, I was really going to see, I was like, I wonder, because basically Evers had said, this is a poison pill. I will not sign a flat tax.
Yeah.
And it seemed like Devin LeMahieu was the only one who was really pushing this, because even Robin Voss pretty early on was like, yeah, I mean, it'd be nice, but I'm not really counting on it.
Speaker Voss was quoted as saying,
Maybe there's probably other things that we can move forward with. And so, it was good for me for content, because I got to make a video about how terribly something similar that happened in Kansas failed.
Oh yeah.
And so
It broke Kansas.
It broke Kansas.
Thanks, Governor Brownback.
And so good. So as far as this not being something that they're going to push through, I think this is a good thing. Do you have thoughts?
Can I be totally honest?
Sure.
I've never understood the idea of a flat tax. No one's ever been able to explain it to me where I'm like, I get that now.
Well, what do you mean?
Like what a flat tax, just like there's a flat tax.
You mean like what it is, or why it works, or why it's a good idea?
Both.
Okay.
Yes, both.
So flat tax is basically just everyone pays 3.5% of their income taxes.
That's dumb.
Versus a progressive tax, which is what we have, which is what the federal tax system is as well, which is you're supposed to pay
a
larger percentage depending on which bracket you're in and how much you're making. And so this would just say, and this is why it's a disproportionate boon for the wealthiest people, because they're right now paying a higher percentage. And so does that make sense?
That makes sense. It's just, I guess, why can't Republicans make it make sense to the people that, you know what I mean? Like, to me it sounds like you're going to pay less, and why people aren't on board with that. I get, maybe it's not maybe let me rephrase it. It's not that I don't understand the flat tax. I don't understand why it is such a poison pill in states like our state. Like, I know that it was detrimental in Kansas. I guess for me, like, it feels like it's something that should win a lot in Republican controlled state houses.
Well, there's some Republican state houses, and I don't know the tax code for every single. I know like Tennessee, Florida, Texas, Alaska. Who else doesn't have an income tax at all?
Nevada?
Maybe Nevada. Off the top of my head, I can't think of everyone who doesn't have a state income tax
Yeah.
at all. But to the south of that, I mean, there are multiple states that do have a flat tax, and then what they make it up in is sales tax and property tax and stuff. And so when you're looking at overall tax burden, because I think I saw some op-ed from I think someone from Badger Institute, which is a conservative think tank policy place, and their argument was that our neighbors, not Minnesota, but I think it is Illinois and Michigan, then it was either Indiana or Iowa, has a flat tax. But then when you go and actually look at their overall tax burden, we're all basically the same.
Yeah.
Unless you live in Chicago, because like they have a higher city tax, right? And so I think it's also just what can you make it up with and other things. So it's like in Florida, tourism. In Texas and Alaska, they can make it. They don't have flat taxes; they have no income tax, but it's like energy and different industries that can generate a lot more revenue. Where
so did Wisconsin have no way of making it up? Like, so if they implemented a flat tax, saying, "Oh, we could do this," like if we said legalize marijuana,
which is also dead on arrival.
Yeah.
There was no proposal in conjunction with Devin Lemieux's proposal of how that money would be made up, I think, unless there was like a proposed overall sales tax increase.
Well, thank you. And thank you for listening to this section we call Kristen Explains Things to Greg.
Hopefully, I'm waiting to see someone text in like, Kristen, you were totally wrong. That is, I was like, I couldn't look things up in real time. I was like, this is off of memory. Yeah, Here you go.
You can always correct us at 844-967-2789.
All right. Well, that is not going to be in the budget. But also another thing that looks like it's also not likely going to be in the budget is Evers' local sales tax proposal that would be funding at 20% of the statewide sales tax going back to cities and municipalities via shared revenue. This was from a luncheon yesterday.
Ooh, shared revenue.
And it seems like to me, reading this, that it's basically not so much that they don't like the idea, they being Republicans on the Joint Finance Committee, but more that they just don't like it was Evers' idea.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of their idea first, and then Evers proposed it, but now they just don't really want to take it. And so,
well, you can't give him a win.
Well, also, I think if they do that, yes, one, they can't give him a win because we're still in that mindset. But also, I know that Voss was pushing the bigger municipalities to make changes to certain things to get more shared revenue, almost holding shared revenue over their heads, saying like, well, if you change your infrastructure here, you adjust things there, we'll talk about more shared revenue for you. And if they do this, maybe Milwaukee won't have to kowtow to the Republicans on
that could be
requests.
That could be basically the two Republicans said they would build their budget. This is Mark Bourne and who was the other person at this?
Is it Howard?
No, it was Howard Markline.
Yeah.
And saying that they would build their budget based on base levels. So the co-chairs said that there are opportunities for agreement with the governor, such on shared revenue to help fund local governments. Bourne said that doesn't mean they support what the governor is proposing, but they agree it's important to make progress on this on shared revenue, which is good because something needs to happen. But the quote was, that's not going to be something we're looking for. We're going to be looking for innovation and for really how this money funds the future of what local governments need to provide. So we're not interested in funding the same old systems with just new money. We want reforms. We want improvements that really fund the future of what are really essentially services that local governments have to provide. I don't really know what that means.
Well, yeah, because he didn't say anything. He didn't provide a solution himself.
Yeah, and I don't know what.
And then what was
innovate?
And then, of course, Markland mentioned changes to Milwaukee's pension system as an example. Like they want to get their way. They're gonna put their boot on the neck of bigger cities, the ones who don't vote for them, as they always do, and they're gonna hold their shared revenue hostage.
So it'll be interesting to watch what proposal they come up with if they're pretty likely not going to adopt Ever's idea.
Yeah.
And then this feels like I think this is going to be hard. I don't know. I don't think this is going to end up in the budget, but I could be wrong. But this broke yesterday. Ever, I don't know if it broke. This was published yesterday.
It was published yesterday, yeah.
Tony Evers seeks $3.8 billion, which is over half of what the surplus is, for building projects, nearly half of which are on UW campuses. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. Like, I love Papa Evers, but that made me very nervous. I'm like, are we just looking to blow the entirety of the surplus? Is that what he wants to do? Because yeah, it's 7.5 is pretty cool, but you know, I was looking at an article saying like we can celebrate that, but Minnesota has a $17.5 billion budget or surplus. And I would say like, yeah, if we had nearly $20 billion in surplus, maybe this, but blowing over half of it on, I'm wondering if he's going in saying, I only need 1.4 billion or 2 billion, but I'm going to say 3.8 so I can negotiate it down.
So it's proposing projects in 28 of the state's 72 counties, and it's things that include 1.8 billion for the UW system for brick and mortar building projects. Other big ticket items include $41 million for fiber optic upgrades to the state capitol to improve cellular service, an additional $60 million for the new Wisconsin History Museum to offset rising construction costs, and $190 million for juvenile correction facilities that would eventually lead to the closing of the state's long-troubled Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake youth prisons. And so it seems like stuff that does need to get funded and does need to happen, but I don't know where this falls on the priority scale. And also, is there other ways to fund it? Like sometimes I feel like with building upgrades and stuff, and I'm not always the one who say, oh, we shouldn't just rely on rich people to pick and choose the projects that should get funded. But some of this stuff feels like, isn't this what donors are for?
I think in the UW system, yeah. I mean, it's like instead of building them a library, saying like, hey, do you want to donate so much money for fiber optic, or not fiber optic, that's for the state, but like something like that where we need to upgrade the science department. We need to work on the, yeah, I think that if, and they'll probably come back and say like, yeah, we do have donors for that. Okay, well, where's that money going then too? You know, I mean, 3.8 just seems like such a lot of money, and almost like they're probably like, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You're out of your mind.
I even see that one, and I'm thinking of Voss's stupid quote of like, if you like watching Oprah, like you get $1 billion and you get $1 billion. And because that does seem like a lot of money, especially if you couple it with what we talked about last Wednesday, which was the $290 million for the Brewers Stadium.
Yep.
And it just coming back to constantly questioning. I was like, all right, with a historic surplus that pales in comparison to Minnesota, apparently, but is still big. Like, what is the most important things to fund? And I get that buildings need to be updated and improved, but I don't know. It feels like other stuff that should be prioritized.
You know, we can't go back in time and change the 5 counties tax. You know, the taxpayers built that stadium. I think it's fair to say to the owners and say, all right, you guys take care of the upkeep now. We built it for you. You guys got to change the light bulbs and put a new coat of paint on there. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
It's your problem. You're the rich ones. We did the heavy lifting. Now you guys pick up a paint bucket.
But then the threat is that they would just leave.
Well, and that's every time. It's always, we'll leave. Okay, cool. Where are the world famous Milwaukee Brewers going to go? Kansas.
Kansas doesn't have a baseball team?
They have one in Kansas City, yeah.
Oh.
They can just be Kansas Brewers, Kansas Brownbacks.
Kansas Brewers.
Kansas Brewers.
All right. Well, when we come
back to Seattle.
Oh, yeah. A reminder that please donate to your local food bank because food share benefits ended and it's going to cause a strain. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we return. This is As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And we got Greg Bach here because it's Wednesday. And rolling through the first hour. And just a reminder, I know this was last Monday Sherry Tessler was here?
Yes.
And Sherry
From the Hunger
Tessler,
Task Force.
Executive Director of Hunger Task Force, was here to talk about the looming crisis, basically, that could end up happening in Wisconsin, but also nationally, because as of yesterday, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP nationally, here it is called Food Share in Wisconsin, expired yesterday across 32 states, which includes Wisconsin. And nationally, it's impacted more than 40 million Americans. And in Wisconsin, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of Wisconsinites. And it's not good. It's basically, I think the big fear is that a lot of people don't know that this is coming. And so they're going to go to try to buy food with the additional $95 a month they were getting under this emergency program. And it's not going to be there. And for some people, they're going to go down to $23 for the month.
Isn't that just shocking?
And
Criminal.
the group that is likely going to be affected the most is elderly people who are on fixed incomes. And this is happening at a time when food costs are still record high as far as how far $100 gets you at the grocery store. Not very far anymore.
And even without inflation, it's still going to be too high for $23 a month.
And so, I know that we talked about the Badger boxes and certain initiatives that Hunger Task Force is trying to do. But as far as having a more substantial funding option to make sure people don't go hungry, but until that happens, because we know how quickly government moves, this is a reminder to support your local food bank, because they are all going to be under in high demand right now, as far as people needing to find other ways to get food because they can't afford to buy their own right now. Jane, you look concerned. Oh. And so that was kind of the biggest thing I just wanted to be able to remind people. Did you know this was happening?
No, I didn't. I mean, it's one of the things this is not something I was aware of now.
And I think what's really disturbing about this too is that a lot of seniors are going to be affected by this.
Yeah.
A lot of seniors and a lot of children.
Mhm.
Yeah. And, as one study found that, at least nationally, this extension or these emergency funds was keeping 4.2 million people out of poverty.
Wow.
Jeez.
And the other thing that's ending with the pandemic era assistance is 14 million people could be losing access to Medicaid. And it's because the government officially is looking into who's eligible for the first time in 3 years. So
for the past 3 years, they have just allowed people to take Medicaid without vetting them?
I don't know the full. So if you get healthcare coverage through Medicaid, you might be at risk of losing that coverage over the next year. And this is from AP, that roughly 84 million people are covered by the government-sponsored program, which has grown by 20 million people since January of 2020, just before COVID-19 hit, the pandemic hit. And so, but as states begin checking everyone's availability for Medicaid for the first time in 3 years,
Wow.
as many as 14 million people could lose access to that healthcare coverage. A look at why so many people may no longer qualify for the Medicaid program over the next year, and what you need to know if you're one of those people who relies on the program. And so they go into more information on how this is going to affect different people. But yeah, I mean, this kind of ties into what we were talking about in the first segment because if the student loan forgiveness doesn't happen, because right now you haven't, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, you haven't had, the pausing student loan payments has been on pause basically since like 2020, right?
Currently it's still, I think it's on pause. until May, I believe. I never paused mine personally.
Okay.
I paid the entire time. Um, but yeah, I mean, people haven't had to pay since basically April or May of 2020. And for some people, it's been a blessing because their student loans are but those bills are gonna come back.
Well, I mean, and that was part of
And
the
interest rates have
concern
risen.
with it's a concern with all of this, right?
Yeah.
Is that you gave flexibility, you gave lenience, you gave
Mhm.
extra money for all these different programs to get through, a once in a lifetime pandemic where
Yeah.
some people dramatically increased their wealth.
Yeah.
And for other people, the last 3 years have been really, really hard. And these big blanket programs through federal funding, I get the argument that at some point they have to end,
Yeah.
but it's like there's a lot of people who are not back to normal. There's a lot of our systems that are not back to normal. I mean, I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of why food is so expensive still. As far as I know, with eggs, it was avian flu, and I know obviously with the Russian-Ukraine war, there's stuff with grain and stuff like that. But like across the board, I don't know how much of this is just because all of our groceries are made by the same 4 companies, and so they can price gouge and stuff. So, like, I would have to look more into, like, why things are so expensive, but regardless, they are. And just going back to, like, normal before times isn't that easy for a lot of people.
I mean, I have to imagine, yeah. And I don't know, it's weird because I think about my life before the pandemic and now where my life is now. I actually feel better and
Mhm.
happier and more
Yeah,
fulfilled. So I can't it's hard for me to identify on the sides of the individuals who are so deeply affected by these programs that we're here to help and now they're going away. And $23 to me, $23 a month for food is criminal. Like that is, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like, you shouldn't be getting that.
I know. Isn't that wild to think about people? It's like you're still like you
Why am
should
I
be
paying
getting
for
it
your
for the government.
food?
Yeah, exactly.
If you can afford to make a donation, peanut butter is really good. I'm trying to
Yes.
think of the other things that Sherry told us last week, Kristen. It was, canned fruit and not in sugar water,
Yeah.
in just regular fruit juice and stuff like that. So check with your local food pantries. They are going to need the help.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that will do it for our first hour today, Wednesday,
We
March
did it.
1st. We did 1 hour. We got 2 hours to go. Stick around.
Joint sales agreement with Civic Media. Enjoy.
Who's the most fun to drink with of the Republican lawmakers? Todd Alba did decide to text us who's fun to get a drink with in the GOP.
Fantastic.
Todd also confirmed that Robin Voss has virtually no sense of humor.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada. Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. Welcome to March 1st, Wednesday edition of As Goes Wisconsin. This is the noon hour. Thank you for joining us on your lunch hour. Greg Bach.
Hi.
Was that the first time you've heard that opener from?
No, of course not. I listen to the show every single day.
Did you know that Robin Voss not that funny?
I knew that without having to hear that. I knew that for a fact. I've been in his presence. I've heard
Have
stories.
you?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. You've met him.
I worked in Racine. He was yeah.
You got any stories?
I can't tell you actually.
Really?
Yeah, there's one I can't tell you.
Because you signed an NDA?
No, it's because it was a private meeting between my old boss and him, and things were said, and I was told, and even though let's just say this.
He used fake names.
Bobbin was hanging out with Ron Fickert. No, I mean I'll say it's the things that he said in that meeting only go to solidify his reputation as a cruel, heartless, calculating individual.
Wow. You saw it up close.
Yeah. I think he is the antithesis to what people of Wisconsin believe in. I think he's the antithesis to America. I think he is our Mitch McConnell. I think he is a poison.
See, and I think you guys are so wrong. I think there is a Chucklemeister. There is a funny guy buried deep, deep inside his soul that is just struggling to break free.
And you know when that
and I am here to help him do that.
And you know when you know when that Chucklemeister comes out? When somebody falls over. It's that chuckling is always going to come out with the pain of other people.
That's the only time he laughs is at someone else's expense.
Exactly. Yeah. It's never like a good old fashioned fart joke or, Monty Python, which is beautiful. No, he's going to be like, oh, look at that old person carrying all those groceries. They fell down the stairs.
That's so
Who
cynical.
wants popcorn?
So cynical. I'm just shocked.
Shocked.
Sorry, Mom.
I didn't know you had actually met him.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the topic for this
No,
segment.
it's not.
But we're gonna keep rolling through. So get your thinking cap on for the bottom of the hour, because we would love to hear your thoughts on the different working trends that are happening in this, I guess, post-pandemic. I don't even know what explains it, but there's, on the one hand, there is almost a 6-to-1 ratio of people who are choosing to work part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So less than 35 hours a week and they're looking for those, or working those jobs, versus people who are looking for a full-time job.
Yeah.
So there's droves of people who are now choosing to work part-time. And there is also a new trend of people working 2 full-time jobs remotely without telling their bosses.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to do a dive into why this is, and especially with I'm really interested in the 2 full-time job one, as far as, one, is it ethical to not tell the other, to be basically lying and saying, yes, I work for you, and not telling the other one, I also work for you. But also, does it matter as long as you're getting your work done?
Mm-hmm.
So that is coming up at 12:30. But to start, stick with me on this one.
Yep.
Because, so we talked about this February 20th, when news broke that a Wisconsin company had been fined for employing over 100 children, ages 13 to 17, across I think it was 6 states. And so it was Packers Sanitation. There's another S because it's PSSI. I forgot what it's Packers Sanitation something. And they paid. I mean, as of yesterday, Rick Barrett in Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel followed up on the story and said that they did pay the $1.5 million fine. But what stood out to me when we first talked about this was that this isn't a sole case. And that from one of the articles I read, that since 2018, the Department of Labor has seen a 50% increase in child labor violations nationally. So then on February 25th, so this was only 5 days after we first talked about this story, they published a very in-depth, I mean, I think it's a really long article, but it's really well written and researched and investigated. And it's called Alone and Exploited Migrant Children Work Brutal Jobs Across the U.S. And it basically is looking into, what we do know is there's a lot of people coming across the border, and there is, not to get down the border security thing, but this is a problem. And so it's documented New York Times has documented migrant children who've been coming to the U.S. without their parents in record numbers and are working on some of the most punishing jobs in the country. So this shadow workforce is part of a new economy of exploitation that extends across industries in every state, flouting child labor laws that have been in place for nearly a century. So the New York Times spoke to over 100 child workers, who described jobs that were grinding them into exhaustion and who feared they had become trapped in circumstances they never could have imagined. Its examination also drew on court and inspection records and interviews with hundreds of lawyers, social workers, educators, and law enforcement officials. So most of these children are from Central America, and the children are driven by economic desperation that was worsened by the pandemic. And the number of unaccompanied minors entering the U.S. climbed to a high of 130,000 last year, 3 times what it was 5 years ago. And this summer is expected to bring another wave. And so read the article. I will link it in today's show notes, absolutely. But the part that I really want to acknowledge is that this was published in New York Times, February 25th. Within 2 days, the Biden administration said it's cracking down on the labor exploitation of migrant children. So now the Labor Department is launching its own investigation into the companies, suppliers, and factories that may be benefiting from child exploitation. The Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees the care of minors in federal custody, is also revisiting the vetting process of people who are sponsoring kids. And in the meantime, federal officials are calling on Congress to increase the maximum fine for the child labor violations, because right now it's only $15,000 per incident, which, as we've talked about before, for some companies is a cost of doing business.
Yep. You build that in.
And so I just want to acknowledge that I don't really have a larger point about any of this besides it's obviously terrible, and really recommend reading the New York Times piece, but also that this is at its highest calling what journalism does.
Mm-hmm.
Is the painstaking, I mean, when they talk about interviewing hundreds of social workers, hundreds of lawyers, like what the work that went into writing and investigating this piece, and then to know that we talked about this with George last week.
Yeah.
Which is to know not this that you wrote it for the accolades, but that something actually changed.
Yeah.
And like how quickly this was published, and immediately the federal government was like, okay, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Well, and it also, as to go along with your point, Kristen, so the government did not know this was happening until someone reported on it, which just reinforces how critically important it is to have local journalism. And yes, that means you have to pay a subscription.
You know what, honestly, like there's part of me that thinks to myself, that there's somebody in the government who knew about it, but they were so low level, they just weren't being taken seriously. And it's that typical thing of like, if you don't do something now, it's gonna get worse. And there's probably someone sitting in an office somewhere in DC going, "I told you so."
Well, I mean, and some people because that was even in the story from the Wisconsin company, there was already people from the Department of Labor
Mhm.
quoted in that article saying, "We're seeing an increase of this." And like I mean, clearly I don't think this is something that no one knows about,
Yeah.
but it takes this much of a spotlight to know that there is going to be public outrage over
Mhm.
it and that it better get prioritized.
And it feels like it should be bipartisan public outrage too.
It's also just horrific to me that some of the capitalists behind some of these companies are like, yeah, let's just exploit these kids. This is great for us.
Well, that was the thing is like when you were reading the intro, those child labor laws that have been in place for a century, you know that for a century, all those big business people are like, how do we get around those laws though? We can get around those laws. We just got to be creative. And somehow they did.
Well, yeah, I mean, is it that creative just to take kids who are undocumented and say, I know you're here because you're trying to find work. Here's some work.
To them it is. I mean, to them
But
they
we can't use white children anymore. So let's use these brown ones who
Yeah.
are coming here looking for a better life.
I mean, honestly, that is true because they're going to be demonized by yeah. I mean, yeah. There's not a lot of investment in those children, and no, it's no offense to those children. I don't mean they're not, but like we as a country care less about those children than we do our own, unless something like this happens. Then it's brought to light. Like some people will say, yeah, this has been happening for a long, 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 long time. Other people will be like, oh my stars, are you telling me that this cereal company is employing young children? Yeah, they have been.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to take a break, but we'll be back in just a minute. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
They see the truth before they can die. How about talking about yourself? Do you like what you're doing?
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. He is Greg Bach. And we were talking before about the importance of journalism
Mm-hmm.
and how it breaks stories and it reports on things that otherwise may get just swept under the rug. And this was in the case of, I think, on a state level, a couple weeks ago, we had heard the Wisconsin company that got in trouble and had $1.5 million in fines for employing children. But then on February 25th, New York Times did a huge story on how big the scope of migrant child labor laws, and breaking those laws has been and has become across the country. And I had said, how quickly then the Biden administration is moving into action. But I think the same thing goes for, and this is a quick plug for an event that's happening for the Journal Sentinel soon. But, the Journal Sentinel's won Pulitzers. I think sometimes people forget that. And there's an article written by Raquel Rutledge, who's actually we're going to get her on. She's won.
Yes, she has.
She's an incredible reporter.
I've had the chance to talk to her in the past. She's wonderful and just so dedicated.
So dedicated. We actually filmed a video with her yesterday and we basically summarized this article that she wrote. That is a promotion for an event that's happening this month. So the event is called Pulitzer on the Road: How Local Journalism Helps You. So it's March 28th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Overger Center in Madison. And there's going to be, it's basically, she's going to be speaking. Other Pulitzer Prize winners are going to be speaking. People from Pulitzer are going to be there. But it's also, it's supposed to be a conversation of how the public can make journalists better. And journalists, and we say this all the time on this show, we're only as good as you telling us what's happening
absolutely
in your school boards, in your neighborhoods. And so often these stories come from a tip. And then you start pulling on the thread.
Yes.
And then there you go. And so I highly recommend reading, and I'll put this in today's notes as well, but reading what she wrote, because she does highlight journalists are not perfect. They are human. But don't let their imperfection think that you would be better off without them. Because I think sometimes people think they would be better off without the media. That the media is so biased and they get things wrong. But in reality, think about the amount of work that it would take to actually uncover the truth about something versus getting to actually read about it, especially now with the internet. Of just going, as soon as you have any question, we can go find it. And I now getting to work with a lot of people who work in that newsroom, they work with scientists to test water that they then have to report on. They have to Allison Durr, who reports on Milwaukee City Hall, she's trying to work on something. She's been working on the budget, but she wants to make a video about it. And so she came over to my desk one day and she wants my help because that is what I'm good at.
Sure.
Is video stuff and summarizing things. And the manila folder she dropped in front of me, that was all things to do with the city budget.
All of her notes.
I was like, I love you. I'm not. I will read. This is why I read your articles, just to get the summarized version. I didn't sign up to do that.
That's the opening of the video. You're like, you want to hear about the budget in 1 minute? Well, bam! Here we go. I mean, it is a fictionalized version of it, but the second season of the Newsroom dealt with that. The idea of a story they wanted to report on, but it took them 9 months in the show to go from hearing about it to interviewing to vetting to more interviews to more vetting. They had to make sure everything was airtight, everything was sealed, everything was perfect. And if you watch the second season of the Newsroom, you know what happens in that plot line. But
what is the plot line again? I have to go back. Some of the clips from that show, because I watched it when it was on. What was 2011, 2012? 2012, 2013?
Yeah, sure. No,
early teens.
Before times.
Some of those clips from that show are popping up again on TikTok.
Yeah,
and it's they're still so relevant.
Yep.
And it's still Aaron Sorkin is such a good writer.
Mhm.
So I want to go back and rewatch the show. But what was the plot line for the second season again?
The plot line is that they misreported. Is that a word? They reported on a story that wasn't true, basically. And this was a massive indictment from a news organization against the United States of like war crimes that they had like went into a country and used sarin gas on people, which is against a bunch of different regulations and
or like rules of war.
Yeah, and the whole thing was like they did all their due diligence. They did like 3 breakdowns, they interviewing, and it all came down to the idea that they didn't have the correct information, but there was one person who was leading it who changed information to get it on the air because he was not because he was like, I want to see the world burn, because he was so persuaded that the government had done this that he didn't care how the information got out there, even though once they put the information out there, it fell apart within 48 hours. Like they spent the better part of a year working on this story for 48 hours later for them to be like, we're sorry, we were wrong. Please don't ever.
And wouldn't it be nice if all of our news organizations, because that show was all based off of real things that happened.
2012, by the way,
is when it aired.
Yeah, this did not really happen. This was a fictionalized thing.
Okay.
But you know, the best real life example of just how long good investigative journalism takes is the Spotlight case from the Boston Globe.
Yeah.
I mean,
because what was the final from beginning to end? How many years were they working on that?
It was several years.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff takes time and dedication and resources.
Yeah.
And going up against bureaucracy and politics and all. I mean, God. No, I just rather read a story on the air.
So hats off to everyone who does this kind of work. Support journalists. When we come back, working trends. We have thoughts. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. He is Greg Bach. And we're finally we've had a lot. Well, maybe the budget wasn't that heavy. But this is now a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
So, Jane, you and Carol yesterday were talking about quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting, which is a thing.
It's just a thing. It's a trend. What were your takeaways as two women who have worked for a long time? Are you secretly quiet quitting?
No.
Okay.
If I were
Good.
quiet, no.
I need you.
Are you loudly quiet quitting?
But it's just about part of it was, Carol and I are from the same generation with the same kind of work ethic.
Yes.
Where no matter what your employer asks you, for the most part, you say yes, because that's just the way we were raised and that's what you did. And now younger generations are being a little bit more adamant about what they will and will not do for their employers. And if you're not going to make some accommodations for me, then I'm going to go someplace else.
Which was not the mentality that you.
No.
But also, do you think it's, and I think this is interesting for you two, because you both chose a career where it was a boys' club. I mean, it's still a boys' club.
Yes,
but like
it is.
The barriers and obstacles that you both, and the BS that you both dealt with, is not like what my generation has had to deal with.
I hope not.
And so there is also, did you put up with stuff just because you were so much made to feel like you were lucky to be there at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You are fortunate. You are one of the fortunate few, because I can even remember when I was going to broadcasting school, out of the 24 people in the class, 3 of us were female.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got accepted to broadcasting school.
Did you?
I did.
But you did not go.
They sent me a breakdown sheet. Jane, you could probably attest to this. They sent me a breakdown sheet of what you expect to be paid coming out of broadcasting school. And I was like, nope.
Well, it wasn't quite that dismal when I was graduating, and there was at least still the potential to earn.
Yeah.
But like so many business models, newspapers, magazines, things have changed. Because the advertising streams are so different now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was that work trend that you guys talked about yesterday, which I'm sure will bleed into this. But I saw both of these articles that feel contradictory, but also worth talking about the motivation. And I think just point to, in general, the unpredictable work trends that are happening, as far as when we don't really know. It feels very hard to read the news and in some ways say, oh, we're like on the brink of a recession. If you look at all the layoffs happening in tech, and although I talk to my friends who work in tech, and they're like, well, everyone's finding a job pretty fast.
Oh.
And you haven't seen those layoffs in other places. So then you see something like, on the one hand, more Americans are working part-time by choice. In December and January, 1.2 million Americans joined the part-time workforce. And so basically, there is over 1 million Americans joined the part-time workforce in the last month and first month of 2023. And most of them chose the temporary grind over a full-time hustle. And the downshift is basically lifestyle choices, as far as people who have to be caretakers. And what I think is interesting is the money is basically the trade-off that people are doing is it is worth making a little bit less money to have more freedom, and I will just live off of a part-time wage versus, and like have the freedom to take care of my child, take care of a different person, or like
volunteer for something.
Volunteer, or just like, it's just not worth that extra chunk of cash.
As someone who did that, essentially, yes.
Yeah.
For me, like, I think the argument can be made that with the Laughing Tap, it is a full-time job. It is a full-time job in what I put into it, but I'm not clocking into an office at 8, leaving at 5 every day. There is flexibility within those hours of that job. And then I have my other job at Lakefront, and I have specific times, but I don't work every day either. Between the two, I make enough a year to pay my bills, buy food, enjoy life, and I still have time to myself. I don't feel an overwhelming sense of like this that crushing feeling that a full-time job can have, especially if you're not enjoying it, which, like my old job, while I enjoyed the work, I wasn't enjoying it overall, and it was starting to take a toll on my mental health. So working 2 part-time jobs or 2 jobs that are like, non-traditional in their hours, very, very good for me.
And don't you think too? I think with the pandemic, when people were forced to stay home, and granted that was good and bad for some people, but I think people just appreciated, you know what? I can make adjustments to our lifestyle
Yeah.
and still live a good life and
Mhm.
still do the things we want to do. And as you said, Greg, pay our bills and keep up with all of that. And I don't have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
Well, and I do think when I left tech and having a job that I went to every day. Granted, I'm now back in a job that most days I come to every day. And I started freelancing. So that wasn't
Mhm.
even a part-time job where I had to show up to. It was the hustle of making sure I had enough freelance work, but it was making PowerPoints and doing data stuff and kind
Mhm.
of just using some of the skills I had gotten from tech and the relationships I had gotten from tech to be able to do different projects for different people. And I remember that feeling of how invaluable flexibility felt, of like being able to go to lunch and not feel guilty about what time I have to be back to the office. Cause I'm still of that. I'm getting better, but in general, I care what people think. Right. And so that like effort to be in the office, even if you have no work to do, and just because that's what you're supposed to do is be there
Mhm.
and fill the time, even if there's not enough to do versus, oh, I'm going to do this. And once it's done, it's done. I can do it at night. I can do it in the morning. I can do it at my schedule. Like that kind of freedom versus this is when you work feeling. I found to be very, it was worth at the time the downshift because it certainly was a pay cut, but
Mhm.
it was nice.
Yeah. It just feels better. Like the amount of anxiety I felt towards all the things I was doing once I left the full-time job and I had the part-time job and a little more freedom and support from family saying, yes, do what you need to do to be happy. That fog lifted after a couple of months and I feel
Because
better.
what was your old job?
I used to be a barber.
And that was like 40 plus hours a week.
That was Tuesday through Saturday, 40 hours a week. And I would go from the barber shop to the club, work until late. Then the next morning I'd be back at the barber shop by 8 a.m. And then just like in that world, it's a hustle economy. It's a hustle gig. You got to get clients and people will come in, but you also got to go out there and meet people and be like, hey, come get a haircut with me. I'm Greg. I won't make you look terrible. And
Did you have to keep your like aesthetic very
no,
fresh?
no, they didn't
Okay.
care what I looked like. I mean, as long as I was cutting hair, as long as I showered and I was cutting hair, and no one was like, "My God, what did you do? Why did you give this man lethal
Bowl
weapons?"
cut.
Yeah. So I mean,
And your beard never got in the way.
no, I'm not putting my. How close do you think I'm getting
Well,
to them,
I don't
Jane?
know. I just have this vision of you, giving somebody a little sniff,
Well,
and all of a sudden, whoops.
The thing is,
Cut your own beard?
the thing is that if you saw a picture of me, just even from, so we closed in March of 2020 and we reopened in October of 2020. So from October to October of that year, that 12 months I worked there, my hair was super short. I was shaving my head for quite a few of those months, and my beard was very short too. I didn't look like this at all.
Mm.
But they wouldn't have cared either. Like they don't care about. It's not like you must look beautiful to cut the beautiful. It's just get a good haircut, have a good conversation. Don't charge too much. But that job was weighing on me heavily, and it was me being the person I was thinking like, oh man, I'm doing a great job of hiding my pain. I was like, you're not doing a good job at all. But once I did it, because I think, Jane, to what you were saying, as far as like, I know I'm not the same generation as you, but I do have that feeling of you get a job, you go to that job, you work at that job. They tell you what to do, you do it. You can question, you're not going to be a jerk or anything about it, but this is my job. I have a job, I get paid.
That is the exchange.
That is the exchange. So to come out of that to say like, no, I can do what I can still, as long as I'm paying my bills, as long as I'm able to buy food, as long as I'm able to live a life, be comfortable. Okay, I'm good. This feels better. This feels more like me. And I'm hoping that people of Jane's generation, I think they did it, of my generation, of yours and younger, are seeing that like it's okay to take care of yourself. You can still work. There's plenty of jobs out there that you can make your money and still live a life and be comfortable and be happy and live without that anxiety and all those things that come with a full-time just clock in, clock out, clock in, clock out job. That's not for everybody.
No.
It's still hard to say no, though.
Oh, absolutely.
It's still hard to say no.
I generally will say yes 95% of the time when asked to do something, unless I know I cannot do it because of time commitments. And it's generally time commitments. If I know that I can't be two places at once, I say no. But if I don't have to worry about that, I'm like, I'll help. I can do this. I'll take care of this. What do you need? Because that for me is just feeling like being a good guy. Because people need help.
Player.
Yeah. And all the team. And the thing is, all the teams I'm a part of are good teams. Yeah. That's the other thing too, is it's hard to say yes to a guy where you're like, well, I heard a great quote. It says, why bend over backwards for a company that won't think twice about replacing you 15 minutes after you left? Versus like being a part of a team with like, we value you. You are part of this. You contribute. You bring a certain perspective that is great and necessary, and you feel valued. And then you're like, yeah, I'll say yes to things.
But I feel like there's also people who would say, no, a job is a job. Like you're getting paid.
Yeah.
And that's all the value that you should expect.
And that's fine. And that's fine if that is the understanding.
Yeah.
Like if you walk into a job and like, this is a job, here's the pay, thus and so, fine. But like I used to work at a job where they didn't have the money to pay us more. So I suggested more benefits, like maybe an extra, maybe a half week of extra vacation, maybe this or this. Just show that we're valued. You don't have to give it to us in money. You can give it to us in other ways. And I'm not talking about a $10 gift card to Applebee's. I'm talking about like
a pizza party.
Ooh, a pizza party. Who doesn't love a pizza party to make the minions not mad? But yeah,
or just being told we appreciate you.
But he said directly to my face, he goes, "You have a job. That's your benefit."
Yeah.
I was like, I got to get out of here.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, if that is the exchange, then it becomes, if that's the understanding, that's your choice to be able to say, I got to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're someone who, there's certain people who feels trapped in jobs and whatever. But
medical keeps a lot of people trapped in jobs.
Medical insurance certainly keeps people feeling like I can't quit this job.
It's funny you say medical, because when you said medical, I wasn't even thinking medical. I was thinking, how many lawyers and doctors do you know who hate being lawyers and doctors, but they spend so much time and they were expected, whether it's family or whatever.
The sunken cost.
Yeah. Well, that's the sunken cost, but just, the sunken cost. The sunken cost of doing it all. But that thing of like, when you were 18, you're like, I'm going to be a lawyer, and you're not going to tell an 18-year-old they don't know what they're talking about. So they're going to be a lawyer, but they don't really realize the money, the time, and it's nothing like what we see on TV. It's like, yeah, you're going to be in an office working on contracts, working 100 hours a week, making $120,000 a year,
sometimes more.
But you're also going to be paying off $300,000 in school loans. You're going to be paying on a mortgage. If you have family, this is not the life that you envisioned.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to shift gears, still on work topics when we get back, but on the other end of part-time work versus 2 full-time jobs, and the increasing number of people who are doing that because they can get away with it, apparently. Stick around. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. She is Jane Matnair. He is Greg Bach. I am Kristen Bry. Let's switch it up a little bit.
All right.
So we've been talking about job trends and how we're all existing in a brave new world of different working conditions and working arrangements and part-time and quiet quitting. But also the increasing amount of people who are taking advantage of being able to work remotely and the amount of jobs that say you can work remotely that have taken it upon themselves to have 2 full-time jobs, which to me feels like the expectation, I think, when you have a full-time job is that it is at least 40 hours a week. So for these people, are they really working 80 hours a week? Or is it a week? Or is it a combination of stolen time because they talked, and I found this article in Slate, and it's literally called "What's Really So Wrong About Secretly Working 2 Full-Time Jobs at Once?" And it was written by Allison Green. And they have some examples that I think are objectively a problem. So if you are dropping the ball on your team, if you are in Zoom meetings and you're constantly like taking yourself off camera or like on mute and people can tell you're talking to someone else.
Yeah, that's bad.
And so if you're like, it becomes very apparent that you're doing both and you're not doing one or both well, then I think that's room for concern. But on the flip side, if you can pull it off, is there anything wrong with it?
I think if you can pull it off, and it's the understanding of, if I'm the boss and you're the employee, I say, I just need you at the end of the day I need the work that you need to be, I need the work that's assigned to you to be done. If you can get it done and you're working from home, I actually don't care if you do it at 1:00 in the morning. I don't care if you do it at 1:00 in the afternoon, get it done, then yes. But if you are to be on call from a certain time and you are pulling yourself away and making yourself less available and possibly making mistakes, then yeah, there's a problem.
I just feel like it is vaguely unethical.
Say more.
It seems like something an unethical company would do.
Well, we're not talking about the company. We're talking about the.
I understand. But it just seems vaguely unethical. If you're going to do that, then I think you need to be straightforward and tell these companies the truth. That you are doing this I am doing X for you and I'm doing Y for them.
And
because otherwise, one day you're going to get busted and it's not going to be good.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, because I think there's 2 different things. There is the expectation of, at like a service job where you need to be in person.
Yes.
But in a remote job, if the expectation, especially like think about sales, if you're hitting your quota, and this happens for people who go into the office or not in the office, one of the things about sales is a perk, I think too, that appeals to people is it's very binary. You either hit your goal or you did not.
Yeah, right.
And if you hit your goal, people largely leave you alone. And in other jobs, it's maybe not as binary, but largely if you're hitting your goals, if you're doing your job, doesn't matter if you're doing it in 10 hours or 40 hours. And then I think you're right as far as the lack of transparency / lying, depending on which one you want to call, because I don't think the people who are even doing it well are necessarily telling the other company, oh, by the way, I'm also working for these guys.
Well,
right.
If you are lying, then yes, there is a problem. You are straight out lying. But if I'm working for there's one person they interviewed who had 2 jobs that required 50 hours, and they were basically making almost $500,000 a year. Ugh. If you are upfront and you tell them what's going on, they both sign off, then yes, of course, there's nothing wrong with that because you're going to get the job done as they expect it to be done. If you are lying about it, if you're lying about it, or if it's a sin of omission, but they can clearly be like, you're clearly working on something else while you're supposed to be talking to us, then there's the problem. That is unethical. That isn't vaguely. That is unethical.
But I think the person that you're referencing from the article, she didn't tell both jobs.
I thought she said she made it clear. Or she said they were in no competition and she got the work done and none of her work suffered.
But I don't think that means that she necessarily told her employers.
Just that she was getting away
But
with
she
it.
in that same person deleted her at LinkedIn altogether. So there was no looking at her
Oh, I thought that
LinkedIn.
was a different
I'm pretty sure that was her. No,
But
I and at the bottom of the paragraph, it says, I'm not listed on either company's website. Only C-levels are listed at both, and I deleted my LinkedIn account.
my other question surrounding this is, what are they doing from home that they're making $500,000 a year, and how do I sign up for that?
probably
Well,
all
each job is $200,000.
Again, I'm flexible.
yeah.
I would like to know. It's like, are you in marketing? Are you engineering?
Really, what exactly does that? What do you do?
I mean, but she says here, she goes like, I'm very conscientious person, don't accept mediocrity, tend to do great work. So far, I've been able to handle competing responsibilities regarding time-sensitive conflicts. Both jobs are strategic, and in general, I don't have tactical concrete work products with due dates. So, like, if that's what I'm saying, like, and if she's able to do all that stuff, or he, I
think it's a she. I don't
then
know why I thought that, but
and if they're not asking questions, then if the work's getting done, then that's something I have zero problem with, because no, like, if their work isn't being impacted, then do your thing, Jelly Bean. I mean, it said right here the means work she's able to take care of business and do all the things, averaging 50 hours a week, $400,000 a year worth of work at 50 hours a week.
wait, is that all she's working is 50 in total?
But so far, I'm averaging 50 hours a week. I mean, come on.
I wish.
So I think that when you're lying about it, when you're trying to pull a fast one, and you're not doing a good job of covering your tracks, then yeah, there's gonna be
You're gonna
trouble.
get fired.
Yeah,
But if you can, you're in camp. If you can get away with it and you're doing a good job, what's the harm?
yeah.
Jane, where you fall?
You better come clean. You're gonna get busted.
But what's the busted?
That you're not full. You're not
fully dedicated to the one company that they assumed that you
I
were.
think, I guess to me, we're looking at two different ways, though. Like, I'm looking from the pie in the sky. I guess I agree with both sides. The pie in the sky woman who's 50 hours a week, $500,000 a year. Yeah, she's doing her thing. Good job. The people who suck at it, who are like zooming, like, I got to pull away for a second. They're like, you're clearly talking to somebody else. Then yes.
Time to
Get
go.
out of here.
Get out of here.
Speaking of get out of here.
All right. Well, that wraps up our noon hour. Thank you for listening to our lunch hour, but we still got another hour left today. When we come back, a statewide theater fest, world premiere Wisconsin. We're going to be talking to the festival coordinators when we get back. Stick around. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
I'm a fool to do your dirty work.
they are welcome.
Good afternoon.
That can make a difference.
Hello.
Hi. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited for you guys to be here. How did the party go yesterday?
Blast. It was awesome.
All right. Well, we'll definitely hear more about it. But when we come back, I just basically have a lot of questions like, how did you guys come up with this? What are the details? It's gonna be a very casual conversation that I'm sure will be. I'm so excited. It's 50 different performances.
Yeah, close to 50 in about 20 different communities.
That's awesome. So I'm so excited that you guys are here. So we'll come back in about 3 minutes, and then we'll have you until 12:18 or 1:18. I don't know why I keep saying noon. Until 1:18. All right.
Thanks.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane McNair. Here's what you need to know.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry is an independent product and has a joint sales agreement with Civic Media. Enjoy.
Welcome to the 1 o'clock no sour haha funny hour. No sour happy fun time haha power hour. Welcome to the no sour fun time haha power hour.
Oh, she did it.
I got it.
I think she's got it. I think she's got it. By George, she's got it. By George, she's got it.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the 1 o'clock hour of As Goes Wisconsin. I am your host, Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is here because it is Greg Bach Hump Day Wednesday. Greg Bach, what is this hour called?
The No Sour Haha Fun Time Power Hour.
What did I say when I thought I got it?
I have no idea.
Whatever.
It's right for today.
It's right for today.
Oh,
it's
you know
right.
what, Jane? Can you ever be on my side? Ever? Ever?
What do you think got me this job, Greg Bach?
What do you think
Good
got me?
point.
Oh, darn it. Shoot. I'm in.
And of course, we have Jane Matnair, and we are so excited for our guest this segment. So this is 4 years in the making. After extensive planning and collaboration amongst a team of noted Wisconsin theater professionals. World Premiere Wisconsin starts today. And so it is a theater festival that will run until June 30th. And it's happening throughout the state, from the tip of Door County to the state line and across 20 different distinct zip codes. And today we are joined by two creators of the festival, Michael Cody, who's the festival producer of World Premiere Wisconsin, and Jen Uphoff-Gray, who's the artistic director for Forward Theater Company, and who I'm told is the brainchild of this whole thing. And so welcome to the show.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
So let's just start with, what is World Premiere Wisconsin beyond what I just described?
Sure. And I will note that not only is today the first day of the festival, but it is also officially World Premiere Wisconsin Day, as proclaimed by the governor.
Oh,
so let us all celebrate.
That's a very
fancy
cool.
paper.
I know. Lots of whereases. So the festival really was established, and like you said, we've been working on this for about 4.5 years now. So pre-COVID, pre all of that. And there were really 3 big goals. One of them was getting theater makers all across the state talking to each other, working together on a big project, right? That's how you build relationships. It's how you get a professional network, peers you can turn to for other things beyond just this big project, right? It's a great community building exercise. So that was one. Another big goal was just to get a little bit of attention, not just within the state, but outside the state, for the incredible artistic work that is created here. I lived in New York for many years, and it is incredible the sense that nothing else happens, especially in the theater, if you're not in downtown New York City. Yeah. And we all know that that's not remotely true, and incredibly exciting work happens here. So that was one of the motivations, was to get some attention on the work that is generated here in the state. And then the third was to promote the development of new work. And by having a big festival that can shine a marketing spotlight as well on this work, it can help mitigate some of the risks people can feel when they're doing a show that doesn't have a well-known title, right? That is venturing out on a limb to try something new. So those were our big real goals. And then when COVID happened, the great thing is that all of the participating theaters said, "Oh yeah, no, we're still good to do this. We're not backing off." But we did then add a goal for the festival, telling this really positive, exciting story about theater and the arts in our state at a time when we're really rebuilding.
Yeah, and we've covered that before. We're based closer to Milwaukee, and knowing that across the state, but certainly in Milwaukee, as far as the rebuilding of that was one of the things that shows got shut down, and there's only so many Zoom shows you can do to try, especially to charge money to go to a Zoom show. And so trying to get people back in the theaters, getting people to buy tickets, because we need patronage to keep places open. And so I'm so excited about this. So give more details as far as the different communities, the different theaters that are involved. Like it's 50 different theaters across 20 different locations.
Yeah, Michael, you want to do this?
Absolutely. So, we've got at the core of the festival, we have 11 festival theaters. There are quote unquote professional theaters. There are companies that hire equity actors. They're doing full productions. They run from Milwaukee to Madison to Door County, like these 3 major communities. And then we have this large list of participating groups. And this is our community theaters, semi-amateur groups, academic groups. And they're all over the place in those 3 communities, but everywhere in between. And what I think is really awesome about this, and really showed Monday night at our kickoff event, is that this event is really leveling the playing field of what it means to be a theater professional in Milwaukee. In the state of Wisconsin. Everybody who was there, it felt like we were talking about it this morning, Jen and I, it felt like a cast of characters I hadn't seen collected together in one room before. And that was really great. We read the proclamation from the governor out loud, and you had folks from a wide range of theater companies. And so that idea of let's break down some of the barriers that we sometimes self-impose between what's professional or not professional, or what's in Milwaukee or in Madison. Let's just think about ourselves as a larger Wisconsin theater ecosystem and how we all really rely on each other. So it's just amazing. We saw a little sampling of just 5 of the productions last Monday night, and just to already see the range of the work just in 5 little snippets of what we're doing with this festival, which is telling the story of Wisconsin, like who we are, what we're about, and what we possibly can become.
We're talking to the, I guess, founders, but the festival producer, Michael Cody, and the artistic director of Forward Theater Company, and also founder of World Premiere Wisconsin, which is a statewide festival of theater. And so give people an idea. So is all of the work that's going to be played, it's all original work by Wisconsin playwrights?
A lot of it is by Wisconsin playwrights. Some of it is by others. What is part of the festival is all being produced by Wisconsin theater companies, created by Wisconsin artists. Many of the pieces are, as we're tagging it, locally brewed by Wisconsin playwrights, but also some of the most produced playwrights in America are debuting new works as part of this festival. Currently running at Milwaukee Rep is The Heart Sellers by Lloyd Suh. His play, The Chinese Lady, was one of the most produced scripts in America last season. Here at Forward, we're doing a new play called Artemisia by Lauren Gunderson.
We just interviewed her. The opera?
Well, it's totally, there's an opera here too, which is this zeitgeist moment that we commissioned this play about this painter, and someone wrote an opera. We've already been talking to each other about,
that literally was this week. We just interviewed.
Yeah.
And they're both named Laura.
Yes, exactly. So Lauren Gunderson, she lives in the Bay Area, but has had a lot of her work produced across Wisconsin stages. We commissioned this new play 4 years ago from her about Artemisia. So yeah, that's a huge zeitgeist thing. That's just so cool. But these are some of the biggest playwrights in American theater who are having new works debut as part of this festival. So that's part of it, but also incredible events to bring Wisconsin playwrights to the forefront as well.
And so it's all straight theater, no musical theater?
Nope, there's new musicals too.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
oh, boy. Chris, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, Northern Sky is doing a new musical called The Fish Whisperer this summer. Right now in Madison, Cap City Theater is running a new Stephen King parody called Shining in Misery. That is so funny. So yeah, musicals, plays, theater, big capital T.
Oh, wow. And so this is what is the expectation as far as because you also created like a passport, right? As far as being able to kind of track everything that is happening for people who really want to get as much as they can out of the festival between now and June 30th.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the great collateral benefits of trying a big new idea is that you get to try new ways of engaging people to come see shows. And, we are in this place where we're trying to get people to come back to the theater, but not just the theaters that they love, like go see theater where you haven't been before, like travel the state a little bit. So our website, worldpremierewisconsin.com, has a listing of everything going on in the festival. The full calendar is there. But you can also sign up for a digital passport, which lists everything in there. You just use your email and phone number, gets sent to you. You don't have to download anything. And as you go to the shows, there's a check-in code, and you check in and you earn points, and you keep seeing shows, you earn points. And you can redeem those points for cool World Premiere Wisconsin swag or be entered into sweepstakes that we'll have throughout the festival. And it's just, just from the get-go, this idea that Jen, came up with, no one's done anything like this before. Like literally, not only have we not done this in Wisconsin before, but no one's done a theater festival that spans the whole state and is ambitious in the scale and scope like World Premiere Wisconsin. And something like that needs new tools and resources to engage audience members. So we're really excited about the passport. We really hope people engage with it, and we can use it as a way to keep nudging people to send them a message and say like, hey, we saw you checked in, go check out this show next weekend, and keep them coming to the theater.
Absolutely. So I guess with something that is this big, are you guys already planning for next year? Or are you just trying to get through the next 2 months?
Come on, we
3
just
months. 3
opened.
months?
We just started today. Come on.
I really feel very confident that there will be a repeat of World Premiere Wisconsin.
Okay.
I don't think this is an every year kind of thing.
Okay.
Developing new work is a multi-year process.
Yeah.
You have to, it takes a long time to build a new piece of theater. And so our goal right now is to get through this first festival and then really check in with all of the people who made it happen. The timeline for coming back and doing this again that works for people. So right now, our big goal is get it up, make it done well, attract people, and then we'll go from there.
So far as the reception you guys have received, all positive?
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah,
Oh
I can only imagine. What? So final question for both of you then. What shows, if you have to pick one show that you would recommend people definitely, whether it's to travel in their own backyard, but definitely that they see, what would you recommend?
You can't do that.
That's how
All of
rude.
them. No, I just think go see the things that are open right now.
Okay.
There are things that are open right now in Madison and in Milwaukee, and then there's going to be more coming. Pretty much every weekend for the next 4 months, there is a world premiere happening somewhere in the state. So see one now, and then get excited to go see another one.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I'm so excited to check these out. This is an unbelievable undertaking. This is so cool that's happening in Wisconsin because I grew up doing theater here, and so to highlight all the great theater that is still happening here and it happens every year is awesome. And so, Michael Cody, Jen Uphoff-Gray, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will link all of the information on our show notes for the today.
Thank you for having us.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, stick around. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
Hey there, fellow working class heroes. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show. And we
So there it is. Okay.
As you guys can see right now, I have the hiccups and they're not very fun.
Okay. I have the hiccups. They're gone. My hiccups are gone, and those were painful ones too.
Hiccups gone.
And it's gone. Ta-da! One sip.
Well, welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. Greg Bach is baffled by...
I was panicking because I thought I did something wrong. Like, I thought something on my phone was playing into I had no idea.
So that was a commercial for a new scientific cure to the hiccups.
Okay.
It's a $15 straw
Oh, forget it.
that I guess is proven by science because it's like bigger at the bottom, and so it creates a certain amount of pressure to help with your hiccups. And
That's the quote of the week. It's proven by science
proven by science
because it's bigger at the bottom.
But literally, when you look at I mean, Jane just played it, so we only heard the audio.
There's visuals to
But
go along
the
with it.
commercial, it's just like it's a plastic straw that's very wide at the bottom. Now I get the hiccups. What if the hiccups were contagious like a yawn?
That would be bad.
That would be the worst.
Be like a zombie outbreak.
So I thought this would be an opportunity to save you $15, and we could all share our best hiccup remedies.
I've got a foolproof one.
I have a foolproof one.
Me too.
All right, who's going first? Jane, you go first.
Okay. I will demonstrate on the stream and try to describe it as best as I can. Take a pen or a pencil. You hold it in your teeth like this.
Okay.
And you drink a glass of water.
I've never heard that one.
If you can manage not to drown yourself, it will work.
Does it get messy?
Well, you gotta. It's tricky.
Because how do you?
It's doable. Trust me, I've done it.
It feels like it would be easier with a bottle of water than a glass of water. Because you have to like pour it because your lip's not there to like cup the glass, right?
This is doable.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
You're
All
gonna
right.
get a text in a week saying I spilled all over myself.
Well, there's a warning that goes along with that. So.
Okay.
All right, Greg, what do you do?
My foolproof involves no pen,
No pen.
no third party.
Does it involve a
Water.
liquid? Okay.
Yes. All you do, you got the hiccups. You fill up a glass of water. After the most recent hiccup, there you go. You take a deep breath. You hold it. You drink as much water as you possibly can. When you're done drinking as much as you can, you don't have to drink the whole cup. Just drink as much as you can. Breathe out. So you hold your breath, drink, pull away, breathe out. It has never not worked.
Okay.
I just saved y'all $15.
I'm afraid I'm gonna choke to death.
Oh, I'm sorry.
drown
Mine doesn't
trying to
include
solve-
doesn't include a choking hazard.
I feel like yours looks a lot more like waterboarding.
Yeah.
It's hiccup boarding.
Yours seems like a dare.
So ours, I think this is from my mom's side of the family, is taking a napkin or a washcloth of some kind of fabric and putting it over a glass of water and then drinking the entire glass of water through the fabric. And it always works. It always works. Except I remember doing this
Except-
at a no. I did this at a restaurant when my dad's parents were taking care of us. And they were a little bit more at least this is how my memory was, because it was my brother and I did it at a restaurant and they were wildly embarrassed.
Isn't the one thing that all these techniques have in common is that you were drinking an entire glass of water without breathing?
Well, mine is just as much as you possibly can. If you can drink the whole glass, that's fine. But yours both seem wackadoodle.
And I don't know, because sometimes it's the same theory as like getting scared of having
Yeah.
someone scare you. And so it just like takes your mind off of it. Another one I've heard that I haven't tried, my brother swears by this one and he says it's a way classier way to do it.
Oh,
of course,
ew.
Is taking a lemon wedge and putting bitters on the lemon wedge and then sucking on the bitters and lemon wedge. And that
sounds like someone who has a home bar.
you don't have bitters at your house?
Maybe not, but not everybody has bitters.
Not everyone has bitters, but I guess if you're at a restaurant, it's
Yeah.
something that the restaurant would have. My
That's what,
cameras.
your grandparents would be far less embarrassed by you doing
Yes,
that.
then-
Server, bring me one lemon wedge and some bitters, for I have the hiccups. I will say this though, there's one thing that doesn't cover in there with the whole straw proven by science. I don't always get hiccups from liquid. I get hiccups from spicy food sometimes.
Yeah.
So that straw will be doing me no good when there's some hot sauce happening in my body.
But once the hiccups are there,
Is it
isn't it all the way? I mean, what's it?
is the straw to prevent hiccups from ever happening, or is the straw to cure the hiccups?
To cure.
To cure the
Oh,
hiccups.
okay, never mind. I thought that was
Once you have them.
yeah. I like my way better. It's saved. I've literally saved hundreds of dollars never buying that straw over time.
Over time.
Over
I
and
think
over
it's
and over.
reusable.
You're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose that big bottom straw. Big bottom straws make the rock and roll go around because science says so.
All right. Well, if you have a go-to remedy for the hiccups to avoid having to buy this $15 straw, 844-967-2789. That's 844-96
Party.
Shoot us a text with your remedy. But when we come back, Milwaukee famous chef Adam Pollock is here, fresh off his, well, I won't say. He was on national television again last night in another cooking competition. We will not spoil how he fared, but he will be here with us when we come back. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Well, I was feeling love and my baby made me go down to the honky tonk hill.
like 8:15, and I was like, "Where are you guys? Like, I'm not even supposed to be here anymore." And she was like, "You're so
Hey, buddy, whenever you're ready, we're back in. Yeah, we still got 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Sounds good.
It means using our U.S.
radio thing. But I'm fucking cooking with As Goes Wisconsin. You should just tune into it. AM? I don't know where you could find it. Just type in As Goes Wisconsin. But yeah, I'm cooking for a friend tonight, so or else I was gonna hit you up like you'd come over, but I'm doing that at like 6:30. Mary Lou coming in tomorrow. So you can come chill with us. All right. I'm here.
Executive Chef Adam Pawlak calls out his former friend, the Michelin star-trained Declan Horgan, for betraying him on Hell's Kitchen.
I cannot wait to take the big Irishman down.
Adam, it's not me that got you booted off Hell's Kitchen. It was yourself. You're your own worst enemy. This ain't going home with you.
Let's go.
This is Super Chef Grudge Match.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Matnair, and Greg Bach is also here because it's Wednesday. And also joining us is one of Milwaukee's most famous chefs, Adam Pawlak, who was back on national television last night in a new Food Network cooking competition called Super Chef Grudge Match. And his first national TV appearance was when he was on season 19 of Hell's Kitchen in 2021. And you, should we save how it ended and build the suspense of how the show went last night, Adam?
Yeah, no one watched last night, so
No one watched. It's not like you had a huge viewing party at your restaurant, Egg and Flour, and
I did.
no one was there.
Did. I totally did. It was fun.
So let's just talk. The premise of the show is what? We heard a little bit in the bumper music, but like, what is Super Chef Grudge Match?
Yeah, so they have two chefs that maybe have a friendly grudge in the kitchen or something that they need to settle, and they want to have them come together, and they have a 30-minute round, 1v1 cooking against each other to settle the grudge. You obviously, if you win, you get the vindication of winning. You get the other chef's knife that they put up, each chef had to put a knife up to give up if they lost, and then you win $10,000.
Oh, all right. So then, what was your grudge? Explain a little bit more, because this was another chef who was on season 19 with you, right?
Yeah. So Declan Horgan, me and him were super, super close in the beginning of the show, and throughout we're on the same team, the blue team, and we were like, hey man, we got to get to the end and whatnot. And as the show went on, and towards when my episode, when I had to get put up for elimination, he obviously could have voted for someone else, and he didn't vote for me. And I was like, damn it, dude. Like, come on now. Like, we're supposed to be together, So it was like, I should have been in your space or in your spot, and I should have made it farther. And I always had that grudge that he took third place. So he did really good, and he got to move on. But I think it was getting to the point where he's like, yeah, if we keep Adam around, I might have a worse chance at winning.
So it was a Survivor kind of betrayal.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what they were calling it, the betrayal.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, but that is also part of the that's like part of these shows, though, right? Is like in anything where there is strategy on top of your actual skill set. Because obviously with Hell's Kitchen, it's the skill set of being able to cook well, but then there's also this other layer of alliances and whatnot.
There's so much that goes into those other full-on seasons, where you're living with people and you're dealing with their personalities and all that. And that's why this one is so much better. And it was just about the food and cooking, and there was nowhere to hide. There's no oh, I'm gonna get saved or I got immunity or something. Just one round, 30 minutes, and it's over.
And so the like you said, so what's at stake is bragging rights, $10,000, and the other chef's knife. But then what were the limitations as far as what you could or could not cook?
Yeah, so what happened is each chef had to bring an ingredient that we both had to use, but it was meant to trip up the other chef. So that was fun. I brought serrano peppers. They don't have serrano peppers in Ireland, so I knew that he might have a problem with that. And he actually ended up, he kind of screwed himself because he brought Andouja sausage, which is like a Sicilian Calabrian chili, spreadable meat, kind of like chorizo. And I'm 75% Sicilian, and I've cooked with it a lot. So not
it wasn't quite the curveball that the serrano peppers were for him. So what did you choose to cook then?
Yeah, so then right before we started the grudge match, they gave us the actual subject, and that was elevated diner food, which that's huge here, Midwest and Milwaukee, and brunches and stuff. So super comfortable with that. So I ended up doing a steak and eggs. I love to cook steak. I had some things in mind, but really it was about just starting to cook food and then figure out what you're going to do. That sometimes happens when you only have 30 minutes. You just have to get the pans hot and get things marinated or get things started. So grabbed steaks, grabbed potatoes, stuff like that. Just do and it was an elevated diner dish. So it wasn't like I could just do like an omelet or like a, like a steak bake or something. I had to really like turn it up. So I ended up doing a steak and eggs, which was marinated New York strip. I ended up making a shiitake mushroom and fingerling potato hash. And then I did poached egg on top of that. And then the thing that I used, the specialty ingredient the most, was I did like andouja, serranos, and like aromatics and stuff with butter and like blended it in the blender, kind of like hollandaise, but with no egg yolk in it. So it's kind of like a andouja butter that like got poured over the top of the egg and the steak and all that.
I want to eat all of that.
I know that sounds so good. So
that's gonna be my next thing. Everyone just go like, "Can you make that dish at Egg and Flour?" I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
Can you have brunch? Can we add brunch to this?
It's $10,000 a plate.
Exactly.
So, like, walk through some of, because obviously, like as you said, Hell's Kitchen, it's a whole season, it's a whole other thing. In a one-off, one episode, 30 minutes, in what you just described, so you don't know what he's going to bring as his surprise ingredient. So literally from the moment, like, what is the timeline compared to what we see on the screen as far as how quickly you have to like think, and also how do they have all of that stuff? Like, how much food do they have on hand for you guys to choose from?
So they're using the same studio, obviously, for all the battles, and they're probably filming those back to back to back every day or whatever. So they have a full pantry and all that stuff. And then the two special ingredients were obviously decided in advance so that we knew our own. So they have that ready. But essentially what they do is they bring you out. They do some filming like I forgot what it's called, but like it's just you in the room and they're interviewing you. They have it in every reality show.
Yeah. The confessional.
Yeah.
The confessional.
You do a couple confessional stuff, and then they're like, "All right, it's time to go." Then you get suited up. You go out there. We saw the studio and the area where we're going to be cooking, and then it's like we did the special ingredients. 2 minutes later, they told us, "All right, you're going to do elevated diner food," and then like a minute later, they're like, "All right, get to your stations. Let's go." So it's not like planned. It's not scripted. They're not helping you out in any way. It really is like, if you watch other episodes from this season, there's like top chefs, there's Iron Chefs, there's Food Network stars, there's Michelin cooks, James Beard award winners. Like, they have chefs that are all over, so they don't want to make it easy.
No. And like, I can barely feed myself dinner every night compared to like cooking under pressure like that and coming up with what you came up with. And so we're talking to Adam Pollock, who is the Egg and Flour Pasta Bar chef owner, and also just made his second appearance on national television for Super Chef Grudge Match. So fast forward to last night. I was not able to go in person, but you had a big viewing party at Egg and Flour. I mean, how many people were there? Like 100?
Not quite that many, but there was a lot. It was a really awesome. I pretty much just was like trying to invite people I knew that would be like, "All right, I'm going no matter what." Some people couldn't go. They had some things, but a lot of friends and family. We're closed in Bayview on Tuesdays as it is every week. So it was like a perfect thing. We weren't trying to like make a bunch of money or anything. We just wanted to hang out. I actually ended up getting a bunch of Ian's pizzas that were cold and everyone ate that.
Perfect.
Perfect. So, big reveal.
Yes.
Did you win?
I did win.
He did win.
Yay! Do you have the knife?
It's at my house. Everyone was yelling at me last night because I didn't bring it. They wanted me to like pass it around like on a over my head or something. But I was like, no, it's sitting at my house in my knife bag. But I'm gonna present it somewhere in the restaurant. I think put it in like a little case in a box or something so people can see it.
Adam, I'm curious, what kind of smack talk goes on in a cooking competition? I mean, do you mock is that the way you whisk?
So it's actually really funny. Like, I always said, like, if I go back on a cooking show or something, I'm going to be like crazy and all that stuff. But again, could not take myself to being a crazy TV person. And if you watch the show, it's literally him just talking crap the whole time and me just be like, Oh, all right. If you say
Yeah.
so. And then I had a couple one-liners, and when I rewatched, I was like, I sound like a 10-year-old, like in the schoolyard trying to make fun of someone. Like
That's so Midwest. That's so Midwestern. It's like you just like they're coming at you with all this smack talk, and you're just like, I'm just gonna keep making my food now because I got to make food now. And
yeah, I have 20 minutes, and you're worried about me, and so. But if you watch it, you'll see it's like very chill. Mostly just like I'm just more excited to be there. I could care less how I'm cooking. It's like for me, I'm just gonna make food, and now maybe it's the time I should start talking crap on Twitter or something.
There you go. At Declan.
Now that I won, I that's my thing. I'm like, who wants to talk crap to someone with a chance of losing? Then you have to watch yourself lose after all that. So like, it's not worth it to me.
Well, because you knew when I asked you to come on the show, you're like, well, I can't really talk about it until after it airs. So you obviously knew what happened, but would you have thrown that big party had you lost?
People were asking me, they're like, oh, we know you won because like you're having a party right now. And I still would have had one.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there was some people that I invited where I'm like, I just want them to see it, go down and be a part of it. It probably wouldn't have been as big. Maybe it would have just been like, 20 of my buddies or something to like console me after it. But
there would have been no pizza.
Yeah, no pizza at all. I would have been like, all right, no one's allowed to drink or have fun or anything. Just watch it and get out.
So I guess the big question is the grudge settled?
For me, it's definitely settled.
Okay.
I know that he was on live or something last night asking for rematches and having people say, oh, we got to get a petition going for a rematch. You go, dude, that's a rematch to the rematch. Like that was the rematch. Like go find someone else to be mad at.
So I guess this is more of a serious question. Do you, I mean, emotionally, do you actually feel like you're on the fine page, like with him, or is that kind of
of
for
course.
the channel,
Yeah,
for the show?
I've always been good with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. It is, but it is like, dude, like I should have definitely had a black jacket. And I promise you, I have no problem going against you 1v1 and let's just cook, so.
Absolutely. So now that you've done 2 of these, what is it, do you think, being on the chef side versus the viewer side, why do you think competition cooking shows are so popular? Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think people, obviously, no matter what it is, cooking or whatnot, people like to watch other people do things that they can't do, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they're more excited to see, that's why sports are so popular. That's why the cooking stuff is they want to see people go at it. And I think a lot of it might be they want to see people mess up more than they want them to do good. They're like, oh, I want to see them burn something, or I want them to not get all the plates plated up or whatever. And you get a connection to who you want to win. You're like, oh, I want that person to win because I like their hair color, or I like how he was, and then they get their connection and they're like rooting for someone, then it is what it is, They obviously have it down. There's no shortage of competition cooking shows on Food Network or other networks. So
yeah,
they must have really good ratings. You're gonna have to start doing competition cooking on your show.
Oh
my God.
Oh, I like
Bring that in.
idea.
We don't have a lot of equipment in this studio, but we can figure it out.
This just in, the WAUK studios burned to the ground.
Yeah.
So I guess before we have to let you go, is there anything you want to plug or promote? Any cooking classes coming up? Obviously, I always check out Egg and Flour. It's delicious. But anything else?
Yeah, we have actually Mary Lou from Hell's Kitchen is coming in town. She comes to Milwaukee tomorrow, so she'll be here all week. We're doing a public thing at Bayview on Saturday that's open. And then Sunday, we're doing a 5-course dinner at the public market. You can buy tickets for on the website.
Ooh.
I have. It's a 5-course Southern fine dining menu.
What day is that again?
That's on Sunday at 5:00. You got to buy tickets on the market website. It's going to be really cool, really interactive, and she'll be there personal. I have the cooking classes on the market website that you can get tickets for. And I just released the Edelweiss Dinner with a View tickets for the summertime, where you get 5 courses on the Edelweiss boat, 3-hour boat ride. Or come
You're
to
a
Egg
busy
and
man,
Flour.
Adam.
Yeah, or come
all right,
to
well,
Egg
I'm
and
going to
Flour.
follow up with you so I can get all of those links and put them on today's show notes. And I will also link where you can watch. If you missed last night's episode, you can still watch it. It's going to air a couple more times. Adam Pollock, thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on your bragging rights, your new knife, and $10,000.
I'm just going to open old soda cans with that knife.
All
See you
right,
guys.
stick around.
Bye.
Appreciate
This is
it.
As Goes Wisconsin.
27% of the American
Taking away the moments that make up a dull day.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Natnair and Greg Bach.
Is in heaven.
Is that song Bring You to Heaven?
I'm a huge, huge Pink Floyd fan. Like, I know a disgusting amount about them as a band, about their records. And the reason I think Jade is playing it is because today is the 50th anniversary of the release of Dark Side of the Moon.
50 years.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
You were clued in on that? Are you a Pink Floyd fan?
I was never, I mean, I saw their Animals concert at County Stadium when they blew up the pig.
Yeah.
That I'll never forget.
I have that on tape.
Oh,
cassette
do
tape.
you really?
Were you there?
No.
I was gonna say.
I was in my mama's belly.
He was a zygote.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
he was a zygote. He was there.
Yeah, no, I love that band. So David Gilmour is one of my chief influences as a guitar player. In fact, I think I told you this. My Catholic name,
Oh yeah.
one of them is because of him, not because of a saint.
No.
So, but yeah, thank you, Jane, for playing that.
You bet. And because we had a texter ask for that too and reminded me about the anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon. One traffic note I want to share with you. This is in Milwaukee. Westbound 94 is closed at 35th Street. And all it says is because of an incident. And as I check the map here at 511wi.gov, that looks pretty extensive. So you are going to want to avoid that area. Again, westbound 94 at 35th Street closed because of all they're saying is an incident.
I'm taking National into
I was
Milwaukee.
gonna say, I guess I will be taking a different way home, which is fine.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, Greg Bach, what's
Yeah.
coming up at the Laughing Tap this weekend?
Pink Floyd's coming to the Laughing Tap this
Right?
weekend. Oh my God. Can you imagine how much expensive those tickets would be? Woofda.
The more or less expensive than dinner at Public Market with Adam Pollock.
The dinner would be a drop in the bucket. Samantha Ruddy. Samantha Ruddy's coming to town. 3 shows as usual. 1 Friday, 2 Saturday. Get your tickets. They are selling. Folks, I'm telling you right now. Tickets to the Laugh and Tap shows are going fast. You want to get those tickets right away.
This is like multiple weeks in a row.
Yeah.
You come here on Wednesday and said we are at a low ticket alert.
Yeah. And the thing is like, I want you to come to shows, people. People, listen to me, people. I don't know why I'm doing it like a very bad bill. But yeah, come to shows, laughingtap.com. All tickets are $20. No drink minimums. I believe we have a clip.
I think we're going to legalize weed soon. Yeah. You know, enough with this Ross and Rachel, will they, won't they? Right. Let's just do it. One of the only arguments you'll hear against legalizing weed is that it'd be bad for families. But I think cigarettes are way worse for families because like a ton of people have dads who went out to get cigarettes and never came back. My friend's dad smokes weed, never leaves the house.
There is just something very beautiful about that kind of writing. That's not, I don't want to say it's not prevalent, but in comedy nowadays, there's a lot of storytelling. There's a lot of shock. There's a lot of all these things. Hers is very much a set them up, knock them down, set them up, knock them down. There's a very 80s. And when I say 80s, I mean with all true respect to those great writers, those Wendy Liebermans and Gary Shandlings and writers like that I'm very much looking forward to. But yeah, laughingtap.com. $20, 3 shows, 1 Friday, 2 Saturday. And can I plug something else?
Sure.
A week from tomorrow, the 9th, is something called Carolade. It's happening at Milwaukee Comedy Sports, 420 South 1st Street. $30. Why is it $30? Because all money is going to our friend Dana Ehrman, who is a comic here in the city. Her mother is going through some health issues, and all the money raised is going directly to the family. So there'll be items to bid on, or there'll be an auction. It'll be a really great time, but you gotta get your tickets now because those tickets are going fast. So go to Milwaukee Comedy Sports website. They've got a link to that event. You can buy tickets there. If you're not doing anything else this weekend, come to Samantha Ruddy at the Laughing Tap. Come see me. Say, hey, Greg, I heard you on the radio. You say smart things. And I'll be like, who are you listening to? And then we'll have a hearty guffaw.
There you go. That will be great. So wait, Dana's thing is also this weekend?
It's a week from tomorrow. It's the 9th of March.
Okay.
So a week from tomorrow, March 9th at Comedy Sports Milwaukee. Samantha Ruddy this weekend, Friday and Saturday. And then on Sunday, actually, we're having a tribute to Nola J. Nola J was a Milwaukee comedian who died a couple months ago. So, excuse me, we're having a tribute show for her. Sorry, I'm not cheering up. I'm just like coughing a little. We'll be having a show at the Laughing Tap, $20. All ticket sales go directly to her family. And it's just going to be I think there's going to be like 15 comics.
Oh, wow.
All doing like 5-10 minutes or so. And people who loved her, people who knew her. I didn't know her as well as a lot of people, but she was a lovely individual. The Nola that I knew. Very, very funny, very off the cuff. Once she knew you were a comic, you were in. And she was just lovely. So Laughing Tap, the information's on laughingtap.com for that. So once again, that's also another fundraising event we're doing.
All right. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, indeed. Comedy is always happening.
Comedy is recently someone asked me that. Oh, I know what it was. I got interviewed for something and they were asking me about the Milwaukee comedy scene. And I go, well, let's just get it straight. I would like to do stand-up again.
Mm-hmm.
I have only done the Milwaukee roast since moving back, but I would not ever call myself a stand-up. I don't do this regularly. I was like, and I do know that the stand-up scene is very healthy.
Yes.
In Milwaukee.
Well,
and so
comedy's not healthy, but whatever.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's robust.
Yes.
As far as Laughing Tap, how many comedians live here, how many comedians are performing.
We have 3 comedy locations here in Milwaukee.
You want to plug them?
The Laughing Tap.
Yep.
There is the Interchange Theater down on 10th Street by Marquette, and then there's also Comedy Sports Milwaukee. So, and they're all different versions of comedy. So we do stand-up. Milwaukee's Comedy Sports, they do short-form improv, and then Interchange does long-form improv mostly and sketch as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find at each of those locations a version of comedy that one doesn't, the other doesn't do possibly. So you've got,
And the Interchange Theater is really cool. It's in the basement of a church.
Yep.
And it's a really cool theater.
It's
I've been
beautiful.
over there. It's beautiful.
It's very beautiful. And yeah, support live comedy because we were talking to the individuals about the world premiere event. And I'm all about it, all about theater, but also comedy is art as well. And support live art, support live comics, support the scene.
Go laugh. It's good for you.
Exactly.
That too.
It's scientifically proven, just like a straw.
Just like the hiccup straw. All right. Well, that will do it for us today. Stick around for Dueling Tangents with Luke and Brian and the Chad Holmes Show on WXCO. Come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. when we will do this all again. This has been As Goes Wisconsin.